The T haplogroups have only small percentages of ancestors outside the Middle East. It is probably that out of these 9 branches, 2 times 2 branches had a shared ancestor at the start of Judaism. It is likely that the ancestors became Jewish in the Middle East. This gives in total 13 branches from T. 2 of the 13 T branches probably have a shared ancestor after the start of Judaism. Side note, there are many that have remained at L, 208, M70, and even TM184 still at the very top of the T branch. If we look at the 12 T branches after start of Judaism, we find 4 branches with a close relative, determined by STR distance less than 1,200 years before present in MyImG tool. The closest persons are from Spain, 4 persons to TL208-Y3782, Spain plus El Salvador, TL208-Z709, Puerto Rico, TL446, and Spain, TP77-1-A and TP77-1-B. It is likely that these groups were not among the early arriving groups in the Ashkenazi countries. It is more likely that they were partly in Iberia and partly in the Middle East before some went to the Ashkenazi countries. It is also interesting that hardly no non-Jewish people with haplogroup T are living in the eastern part of the Ashkenazi countries. While about 50 persons with haplogroup T have an origin in Lithuania, Poland, and Ukraine, only 1 person is not related to the known Jewish branches, 96408. This percentage is much larger in Germany and the Western European countries. Jewish Y-DNA branch AB-181. Introduction. This Sephardic group from Egypt has at the moment 1 member with only 25 markers measured. He can be found on ftdna Sephardic Heritage project. The name probably comes from Levi. A other person with the name Lavy is a close match, VanZant. The other close match is E.G. VanZant, 288-212-155726. VanZant is close with a GD of 125th to 155726. DY389I is 12 in Lavi and 13 in VanZant. Different genealogy information suggests different origins for Joseph Janse van Zandt. In the VanZant Society, oral information is reported. No surname was known when Joseph arrived in Albany. His family came from Santander in the north of Spain. If a Dutch language person writes down a Spanish name, he probably will write it in words that he knows or can write. That is how Waas became Waas, and possibly Santander becomes VanZant. On the ftdna project site of Santen, we find 6 branches with a similar name, VanZant, Santen. The distribution of the haplogroups is 2 times I1, 2 times R1b, 1 times J2, and 1 times T. While the I1 and R1b are common for Dutch ancestry, J2 is present with a low percentage. T is quite exceptional and have their origin in the Middle East. The branch of Joseph Janse van Zandt is the T branch. This fits very well with a Jewish ancestry from Santander, while it does not fit easy with a Dutch-German descent. Archives also suggest the Spanish descendancy, as is described as Josep de Spaniert in the New York State Museum. The name Joseph has a Hebrew background, but is also used in Spain, G, Jose, and the Netherlands in that period as a given name. Jan is a typical Dutch name in New York in the 17th century, as E.G. in Jan Keys, which became Yankee. In one of the references, it is suggested that the oldest ancestor comes from Santen, near the Rhine in Germany. See VanZant genealogy. Given names of Adam and Isaac suggest Jewish ancestry, although were also common among non-Jewish people in that period. Given the other suggestions, it is likely that the genealogy to Santen is probably incorrect. The documents coming from Santen are not convincing. In a collaboration between this website and the VanZant Society, the statistics of the match was strongly improved. The match is real, and a shared ancestor is estimated between 1200 to 1600 CE. 2 persons, Lavi Lavi, are detected on the Sephardic background, 25 and 67 markers, and about 6 persons are detected on the VanZant descendancy, 37 markers. The 25 STR markers of the VanZant group are equal to the Lavi group. The distance from the VanZant Lavi group to other T descendants is large. This branch is in the T group of Jewish branches. This branch is a member of the Sephardic branches. exceptional and have their origin in the Middle East. The branch of Joseph Janse van Zandt is the T branch. This fits very well with the Jewish ancestry from Santander, while it does not fit easy with the Dutch-German descent. Archives also suggest the Spanish descendancy. There were many different haplogroups amongst the VanZanten, most likely are J2. According to the Genealographic Project, the haplogroup J2, M172, is rare in Europe outside of the Mediterranean area. What it could also mean is that anyone within this haplogroup would be closely related. That is, within the period, say, 8000 BC to 1500 AD. The strategy for further research? First of all, to seek cooperation of already identified perfect Y DNA matches to dig up and compare their ancestral information and transfer that along with their DNA results to the ftdna project. Second, to try and have everyone else within haplogroup J2, M172, transfer their results to the ftdna project to generate more and more perfect matches. Many people will have some records about the date and places where their ancestors live. These locations would represent additional points on a map, and dates would help establish some migration pattern. While doing my search for data and information to cover B181, the VanZant, I came across a book titled Black and White Manhattan, The History of Racial Formation in Colonial New York City, Thelma Wills, Foote Oxford University Press. Touches on a horrific murder of a slave by his master John Van. I'm sharing this section with the reminder we don't know his haplogroup and possibly no relation, only similar surnames, and we are unaware of the dates. New York City slave owners sometimes use lethal force when punishing their bondsmen. In December, a newspaper report described the fatal beating that a New York City master inflicted on the body of his male slave. Last night being the 21st, the jury of inquest taken before the high sheriff, in the coroner's absence, found that said William Petite, with his fists and feet, beat, wounded, kicked, and bruised the Negro, Joe, on his breast, head, and other parts of his body to the degree that thereof he instantly died. Following this preliminary finding, a jury convicted Petite of manslaughter or recklessly taking the life of his slave. In a similar incident, the New York City blockmaker John VanZant horsewhipped his slave until his victim fell unconscious and died. The city coroner supported the medical opinion of Dr. Brain and Dr. Dupuis, the physicians who performed the initial autopsy of the deceased slave's corpse. In his final report, the coroner stated, "The correction given by the master was not the cause of his death, but it was by the visitation of God." By attributing the slave's death to natural causes, to use the parlance of present-day forensic medicine, the coroner's report exempted VanZant from an indictment on the charge of murder. Both VanZant and Petite had fatally injured their slaves in the act of punishing them for taking time off from work without permission. Colonial New York City offered servants and slaves numerous diversions from drudgery. The city markets became popular gathering spots where the port town's servile populace. Tie-in congregated with the regularity of the conduct of trade. Each workday, dancing, drumming, fiddling, and singing intermingled with the din of maritime commerce. During the colonial period, the Port of New York became a crucible for a vibrant black urban culture. Commerce stimulated cultural production and sometimes transformed the recreational activities of enslaved black laborers into a means of getting paid. Within the public